always feel like somebody's watching the Anthem podcast. This is Cory.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 125 of the Anthem podcast. Whether you're listening to us...
Maybe it was presumptive of me to just assume that everybody's watching.
No, clearly they are. Because why wouldn't you watch, especially on Tuesday when this episode drops at otheanthem.com. And hey, while you're hanging out at otheanthem.com, click on the Amazon tab and go do your shopping through Amazon. It's a great way to help out the podcast network. Costs you nothing extra. We don't get to see what you shop. So listen, no questions about what it is that you're buying.
Yeah.
But no judgments.
Chainsaws and dildos, I don't give a shit.
Nope. But as a thank you for sending you to Amazon, they give us a little something back. It helps us to keep the lights on, keep the bandwidth flowing. So it's a great way to support the podcast. It costs you absolutely nothing. And hey, while you're there, click on over to the merch tab and check out the store. And we got a couple of good t-shirts in there and maybe some other stuff coming.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Gotta if I don't fall asleep at 11 o'clock tonight, then I should be okay to get things done.
And of course...
and while you're there, I mean, like, there's the email list, there's the Patreon.
Absolutely
all
right.
That good stuff.
I was going to say, if you do feel like supporting the podcast in a different way, you can head on over to the Patreon page. It's patreon.com/otheanthem. You get access to a bunch of awesome stuff, including the email list and the early access to projects, as well as the pre-roll, which seems to get better week after week. I really do want you to cut out that section. Just to post and let everybody know what they're missing out.
Just give a little taste.
Oh, it's good stuff. You think that the podcast is unedited? You have no idea. The pre-roll is completely ridiculous. So make sure that you become a supporter on Patreon.
The pre-roll is like Sausage Party.
It is. It basically is like Sausage Party. And of course, we welcome you if you're listening.
Especially when Rob whips his dick out.
Definitely a sausage party.
Little cocktail weenies. So.
Hey. But so if you're listening to us on third-party platforms, whether it's Stitcher, Dogcatcher, our favorite Pocket Cast, or iTunes, welcome. If it's possible, give us a rating and a review. It helps us climb in the standings and help other people find the podcast. And of course, if you're listening, you are breaking the first rule of the Anthem. Download, don't listen. But we welcome you anyway. But you are missing out on half the show. Head on over to youtube.com/otheanthem, where you can check out the video of this and every single episode. You'll see Cory's face, my face. You'll see our information screen right up here in the middle, and of course over there to Cory's right, your left is our sidebar, which will allow you to skip down to the different topics that we're going to talk about today, including skipping over my voice right now.
I always feel like a flight attendant when I'm like pointing towards an exit to this side of the...
Just, if you would like to exit out of this particular aircraft, that is how you do it.
Just go to the...
Bail. Just bail.
Just buy Rob's books and then leave.
Exactly right. But yeah, so make sure you're liking and sharing everywhere. We're at the Anthem on all your social networks. And of course, the most important thing you can do is to tell a friend and to share, click that share button on Facebook and on retweet on Twitter, so that everybody kind of gets an idea of what the podcast is and why you like it so much. So.
Or, I mean, if you don't want to do it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, you can just walk up to people and be like, hey, have you heard about the Anthem podcast? That works too.
Or you could take the...
it's called word of mouth. I don't know if you've heard of it, but...
No, people don't do that anymore. So you could take Flash's conduct from the Anthem Alliance podcast, where she would actually just take people's phones at bars and download a couple of episodes just so that they get a taste. So if you feel like doing that, I don't advocate that, but hey, if it works, it works.
If it works, it works.
And while we're on the topic, make sure you do check out the Anthem Alliance podcast at anthemalliancepodcast.com. New episodes of that every Friday. That is the listeners' podcast. So if you're listening to our voices now, make sure you do check that out. They talk about what we talk about on the show, and they look for listener input. So make sure you're participating there. And of course, the Dirty Show Underground podcast, the other member of the Anthem Digital Network, at dirtyshownderground.com. New episodes every Thursday. So,
well, now that the pleasantries are out of the way,
yes,
I'd like to talk about how I'm going to be a royal pain in the ass this weekend.
I was going to say very unpleasant. You're going to be very unpleasant.
Listen, there was a 14-year span where fans would come to my ballpark and be a jerk, and I just sit on my hands and deal with it because we're losing.
Right.
But now, comeuppance has arrived.
Yeah.
So this weekend, I know it sounds like I go away a lot because I do.
You do go away a lot.
Because I do now.
Hashtag Jet Set Life. I'm interested, by the way, in traveling with you again because I want to see if you and Rachel have stepped up from your amateur travelers game.
I've been fine showing up at the airport at the last minute the whole time. Rachel's the worry word.
There was a checked bag at the last trip, so I'm already sensing that the amateur travel is still continuing.
She needs to have 5 outfits for like every day that she's there, you know, because hashtag options.
Right.
But
you know, I just wish she would do that with her relationships as well. I feel like that would be a better choice for her.
Just become Mormon.
Yeah,
get yourself 5 husbands for 5 different situations.
Just so she has something. Hashtag options. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so you're going to New York this weekend.
Me and Kent are going up to New York because the Orioles are playing the Yankees, which is usually reason enough. But
really the only reason to go to New York, let's be honest. What else is there?
But most of all, the Yankees have chosen this weekend, of any weekend, to celebrate the 1996 World Champion Yankees.
Right.
Now, if you don't remember why the 1996 World Champion Yankees
Corey's going to remind you. Here you go.
Particularly painful, was because there was a little dickless prick named Jeffrey Maier who reached over the wall and stole the ball from Tarasco. Tony Tarasco.
In the days before review. Because today, that would not stand.
Yeah, the manager would step on the top step and say, hold up. And then spend 45 seconds. I'm fast forwarding through 45 seconds of dead air where he's just staring at the phone.
And the pitcher's kicking them out.
Yeah.
And
we're good. And then he takes a slow walk to the umpire and he's like, can we review that? And then they go and they take a slow walk back to the person who's holding like a Domino's bag filled with audio equipment.
Right, yeah.
And they all put on headsets and they talk to New York, which is literally right down the road from them.
Yeah.
And they all look at the video board and they go. And then that takes another 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they take off the headphones very dramatically, or the headphones really dramatically. And then they take it off and they go, out! And then you're like, oh yeah, exactly what I thought it would be. Anywho, that didn't happen back then. In the long ago times of 20 years ago.
Yeah, and even with 5 umpires on the field at that point, right? Because playoff baseball, you have
6.
6.
Yeah, because you have 1 on each line.
Right.
Each foul line.
1 on each foul line, plus
the 4 that are usually there.
Oh, see, for some reason I thought they shifted somebody out into the outfield.
No.
6. 6 people
Yeah.
couldn't pick up the fact that
Richie Garcia was the umpire down the right field line.
Yeah.
Who missed that one.
That somebody reached a foot out over the wall to grab the ball.
But you know what? I got to give it up for... I rarely do this, but I got to give it up for Bob Costas on that one call in particular.
Okay.
Because he recognized what was going on as it was happening. Which is...
That's right. I remember him calling this now. Yeah.
Because like, it's like, you know, like, it's back. It's towards the wall. A fan interfered with the ball. Like, that was his next call. Like, it's just like, what happened here? It's just like, there wasn't like a break where he's just like, wait a minute, something's fishy about it. Or it's like, home run Jeter. Wait a minute.
No, yeah.
It's just like, a fan interfered with the ball. Like, immediately.
Tarasco pointing up into the stands. Yeah. Richie Garcia having none of it.
Yeah. And then everybody ran out to right field, which is weird because usually, like when there's like some sort of argument, it always happens at the plate or the pitcher's mound or something like that. But then you see like Cal Ripken and like Armando Benitez like running out to right field, going like, "Hey, what the fuck?
this guy right here, he's got the ball."
But yeah, in the before review days, where like an umpire was just like, "I made a call, I got to stick with it, and there's no changing it." Like, and then Jeffrey Maier was on Good Morning America the next day. He got a key from the city, sat with the mayor. Rudy Giuliani, like in his...
Now, was that game 3?
That was game 1.
Was it game 1? Okay.
Yeah.
So it set the tone for the series.
Many people said that the Orioles were the better team.
Yeah.
And should have won. And the Yankees didn't really have any business being in that series.
Didn't they win the World Series that year?
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're going to celebrate it in front of the Orioles on Sunday. So I'm not going to let this go unprotested.
Yeah.
Now, I've already assured, mostly my father, who's worried about me ending up in jail, that I'm not going to go too far with it.
Okay, have you assured Rachel that you're not going to end up in the hospital?
I'm maintaining that as long as I don't curse.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of, like, there's nothing I can really say that's going to lead to me getting kicked out.
Getting kicked out, okay. Getting arrested? Okay. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't get arrested if I don't get kicked out.
I feel like there's a chance that you get your ass kicked and then they arrest you for getting your ass kicked for some reason. I don't know why. Just because you're wearing the Orioles gear. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, the New York Police Department has been known for, like, being very patient with...
right. Well, listen, they're no Baltimore, that's for sure.
Let me put it this way. Combative forces.
They're no Baltimore. To be fair, though, they may see you with Orioles gear on and be like, listen, you're from Baltimore. We don't... I'm not trying to get involved with all that stuff.
Listen, I don't involve myself with people who may stab me. So, yeah, I'm gonna be back from New York, hypothetically, by the time this podcast is released.
Can we make sure it's ready to post before we go?
That's all on you, bud.
Oh, God. Yeah, and I got a lot of stuff to do this weekend.
So yeah, hopefully you'll see me, like, on Masson.
Are you making a sign?
I may. I haven't quite decided. I've thought of just, like, getting the picture of Jeffrey Maier reaching out and grabbing the ball and just like putting, like, meme style, like, this is built on a house of lies.
Yeah.
I was, you know, I was talking to my dad about it too. I didn't know who was going to be throwing out the first pitch. Mm-hmm. I assume it's going to be Mariano Rivera now. Okay. Because they're dedicating a statue to him on Sunday. Like his Monument Park. Yeah. So I have to imagine he would be the one. But there was a small sliver of me that thought they might actually bring Jeffrey Maier out to throw the first pitch. Yeah. And that is a booing moment I have been waiting my entire life for. Nothing has built up more than my desire to boo Jeffrey Maier.
He was a minor league baseball player. You could have gone and booed him then.
He wasn't, actually.
I thought he made, like, a AAA team.
Nope.
He was a college player.
He was a college player.
We could have driven up to Connecticut. And
we thought about it.
Well, we found out, yes. Yeah. Like, he was literally an hour from here.
I think it would have been the acceptable type of street justice. Yeah. If we had driven up to Connecticut, like, found out, like, what the McKeebs was of Wesleyan.
Okay.
Just go there on Thursday when we know he's going to be, because, you know, like, obviously everybody's at McKeeb's on Thursdays.
Right, yeah.
And then just find him and then boo him. Just wear Orioles gear and just be like, boo!
See, so the reason Rob vetoed this idea is because it didn't involve, at the inception of the idea did not involve booing him on the field or booing him at a bar. It involved murder. It involved driving to Connecticut and murdering Jeffrey Maier.
It did not involve murder because that means it was premeditated.
But we didn't murder him, so it's no premeditation.
We didn't talk. We possibly joked about murder.
There was no substantial step taken towards the murder. I mean, we did map quest it.
There was no specific plan to murder. So, therefore, it wasn't premeditated.
It was like, listen, we're going to drive up there, we're going to boo him in the face.
I just want to make sure that this is a public space, and I want to make sure that it's well known. I have never, nor will ever, have intention... Well, I can't say nor will ever, because he may reach out and grab another ball like a fucking prick. But...
On Sunday,
he goes out to right field to just spite me some more. D.D. Gregorius hits a lazy fly ball to right field, and he reaches out just to celebrate the moment. Oh, what a dick.
I think of no better way that game could end is if he reaches out.
If he did that, like, literally. If they recreated the moment. Yeah. And, like, he reached out, and then the umpires were just like, no review. It's celebrating 20 years ago. We don't do it today. I would literally go out there and beat the ever-living shit out of him. I don't care. I don't care if it's the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. I don't care if I'm wearing orange. I will beat the mother fucking shit out of him.
I can almost sense that they are going to put him on the wall in right field, and at some point the Jumbotron is going to come catch him in the seats, and they're going to do like a little like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, hey, just in case you're worried about the game today, we have Jeffrey Maier on the right field. He'll be taking care of business as the 10th man.
I will boo so hard.
Boo! Booing the screen. Yeah. It's like, okay, wait. I see. It's like
Maybe
1,
try
2, 3,
and
4.
start like a House of Lies chant. House of Lies. House of Lies.
Well, yeah, apparently DC was packed full of Orioles fans. So maybe you have a decent number of Orioles fans in New York.
Well, I did put it out to the guys at Section 336 that we should just collectively as an Orioles fans just drive up to New York and take over their ballpark like they used to take over ours. And if we're outnumbering them 75% to 25,
right?
Because they've given up, it's done. Like we could hypothetically change the course of this thing.
Yeah. And then the guys from all the other Baltimore podcasts are like, listen, we have families and jobs to go to on Monday, so
we don't have
really
off work on Monday like you do, Cory.
I also have a wife and a kid that I have to worry about, so,
Whatever. Bring the war to the streets.
You have a bunch of guys who are 27 who have own houses, have families.
We should just march into Yankee Stadium like it's Les Mis, just like waving one big flag, one big French flag over. Sing Orioles Magic very dramatically. Something magic happens every time you go. You make the magic happen. The magic of Orioles baseball.
If the Orioles are looking for their video for 2016, that is it right there.
Get some shitty kid to die immediately.
What? Now you're talking about
that happens in Les Mis.
You're talking about
that happens in Les Mis. The kid gets shot.
Not immediate. That's at the end of Les Mis.
Yeah, but I mean immediately after the revolution happens.
Oh, well, after it starts, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we've gotten Les Mis out of the way,
I am like on the verge of breaking out into song. Let's change the topic. So yeah,
well, I hope anything that I said hasn't given you an allergic reaction because
we're going to be in trouble.
It's going to be mighty pricey.
So so for going back, the news happened kind of in the middle of the week. So yes, when you guys saw this posted, you're probably like, hey, why didn't they talk about it? Because we record early, so it didn't really come out. But
and a lot of shit was going on.
There was a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. So last week. They announced, I guess they didn't really announce it. It became known, I guess I should say, that the price...
Just in time for back in school.
Right, that the price of the EpiPen, which, much like Band-Aid brand, like you like, oh, hey, I need to get a Band-Aid. No, what you need is an adhesive bandage.
Yeah.
But Band-Aid brand is the brand.
Adhesive bandage strip.
Right.
Is like the...
Or you give me a Q-tip. No. What you want is a cotton swab.
Right.
But Q-tip. So EpiPen has become like what you call the thing that you do when you have an allergic reaction. Yeah. But it's actually a company, and there's that one EpiPen. But it's become so wide known that it's what everybody uses. Right. And they said, well, funny thing about that, everybody likes us, so let's jack up the price to $600. Yeah. From $60?
Something like that.
Yeah. Some ridiculous amount.
It was like a 500% increase or something like that.
Yeah. And as a thank you, the CEO gave herself a $19 million raise.
Yeah. So, just in case everybody's forgetting, the real villains aren't the Hillary and the Donald Trump. It's the people who pay them to do the things they do. Specifically, the pharmaceutical industry, who is constantly doing this. The only difference is that usually they aren't so upfront about it.
Oh, no.
I mean, like when Skrelly did the thing where he jacked up the AIDS medication 600% or whatever. Right. Like, that caught the eye of people because usually you're not so blatant about your cheating.
Well, and to be fair, he justified it because what he said is we are going to develop the next generation of medicine, but we can't do it with the money. The thing about the EpiPen is there is no next generation of EpiPen. Right. It is facilitating... now, it is a bandage. It gets you to the hospital. That's all. It keeps you from dying so that you get to the hospital. There's no better way to do that. So they're not going to develop the next EpiPen.
Unless they plan on selling you something that has a hospital included in it.
Which,
Like you stab yourself and then the hospital gets working.
Nanobots? Yeah. Yeah, but they would never do that because then nanobots, it's a one-stop fix. Yeah. They want to treat you for months and years and years until keep you at the point of death as long as possible. Right. But, so it's ridiculous. And here's something that not that we talk about, what are they called? Conspiracies. We're not one to wager on a conspiracy.
No.
But did you know that the husband of the CEO, that some family member lobbied Congress that there is now a federal law which requires all schools to have a supply of EpiPen on hand?
Interesting.
And that started with the 2016 school year. Just before they jacked up the price.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like... listen, I'm a capitalist.
No one is saying anything about capitalism.
I'm not.
We all agree capitalism is good.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people arguing the reason why they jacked it up this much.
Okay, go ahead. What reasons have you heard?
Every single one of them was very...
There's no good reason.
Yeah. I mean, every single one of those reasons was like, oh, okay, that explains why you would need to raise this price from $60 to $75 or...
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, oh, I understand that you're selling them for cheaper in places where they can't afford them, so therefore you have to make up the cost elsewhere.
We're going to give one away for every one that we sell, so we're increasing the price by 30%. Okay.
Right.
And that 30% is going to be eaten up by most insurance companies. I get you. All right.
Yeah,
I can't afford it, but the likelihood is that I did qualify for a free one. I'm with you.
Right.
Good. That's fine.
But I mean, like, every single... So, you know, you bring up insurance.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk that I've been seeing about insurance companies going to have to raise rates dramatically because of Obamacare.
Yeah.
Regulations.
Wait.
But wait. The reason why...
Don't skip over that.
The reasons why insurance is so high is because doctors realize that insurance is going to cover 70% of whatever life-saving procedure that you have.
Right.
So they charge $30,000 because what the fuck do they care how much the insurance company pays them? But then the insurance gets more expensive, and then when the insurance gets more expensive and you have to have it or else you get a penalty, then yeah.
So this is the ridiculousness that is the American healthcare system. A surgery costs you $70,000.
Yeah.
The doctor realizes that the insurance company is only going to cover 70%.
Yeah.
So they charge you $100,000 or $110,000.
Yeah.
So that 70% covers the surgery plus a little extra. And then
when you can't afford the $30,000 or $40,000 for the surgery that you desperately need, you go bankrupt.
Right. Or you put it on a credit card and then don't pay it, and then you go...
Or you get threatened by call centers for the rest of your life, or...
And even if you declare bankruptcy, then maybe somebody buys the debt anyway, and they still harass you about the debt. John Oliver had a wonderful post about that. So this is the farce that we live in, that this is somehow a working system.
Yeah.
And Obamacare was great. I think when it first came out, we talked about, we were getting access for care for 26 million people.
You were saying that. I wasn't saying that. I kept bringing up, like, hey, insurance companies are still involved in this.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's going to go horribly wrong.
Yes. It was good to a point. But what we are seeing now is that as soon as the protections wore off, which happens next year, that lock-in prices, the insurance companies are like, we're going to have to raise rates like 35%. So again, if you pay $100 now, you're going to pay $135 next year.
Or if you're like most people who are paying
$1,000, you're paying $1,350 next year. All of this to substantiate this culture of insurance companies need to exist. For what reason? I don't understand.
Oh, because it's an industry, and if we get rid of insurance companies, then all the people who work at insurance companies are going to have to find other work. And all the people who work at doctors' offices, and blah, 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 blah. I never heard anybody talking this much about Blockbuster when it was about to go up.
First of all, where was the bailout for Blockbuster? Okay, because...
It's like, hey, this is a horrible idea, and it's surely going to go out of business on its own, but we should probably save it because Blockbuster.
Because people work here.
We all remember how great it was when Blockbuster was the game in town.
And, there's nothing better than going and talking to Chet, who's like that 60-year-old guy who works at the Blockbuster, who's seen every movie. Yeah, like, hey, Chet, what do you want to watch?
Yeah, and the guy who knows what you like.
Yes.
Like, the guy, you and Chet are right on the same page with movies.
And he's like,
so when Chet tells me something I want to see, I know I want to see it.
You're not going to see this in any of the newspapers. You're not going to see this on TV, but there's a new flick out, Lobster.
Yeah.
You need to go see this thing.
It's like, what's it about? No.
Don't. It's going to sound stupid if I tell you.
I don't want to tell you.
Yeah.
You just got to watch. You just got to trust me on this one. I'd be like, oh, all right. Yeah. Then I come back with the VCR or the VHS tape, and I'm like, Chet, you're a genius.
Where's the bailout for Chet? Okay. So the argument was that we can't let insurance companies go.
Yeah.
Even though they wouldn't go because rich people will still buy extra insurance because they'll still want more services.
Right.
A cottage industry will break out of doctors who only take private insurance. They
Yeah.
don't take government insurance. But we could get everybody covered and it wouldn't cost $1,350 a month.
Or after, it would take some time. And I would hate for all the people who have life-saving medical conditions in between the time where insurance companies go away and, like, freedom happens. But, you know, like, the cost of the medical procedure over time will go down to what it actually costs.
Yeah.
Because the free market economy will say, no, it's not worth going to Johns Hopkins where they're still charging $70,000 for a heart attack.
Right.
When I can go to GBMC and pay $30,000, which is actually closer in line to what the cost of it actually is.
And like Sprint says, the difference in care is like 1%. So who's really going to matter?
but the difference in cost is
exponential.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the
2.5%. Then
the beauty of their argument.
2.5 times. I mean,
yeah, the beauty of their argument. It's that services within 1%, and Sprint costs you half. So let's do the same thing. Let's take the Sprint model and put it in insurance. Let's do that. The problem is that Grandma dies in the meantime because she doesn't get the insurance.
Yeah, because it costs $70,000 and you can still be bankrupt for it.
And that's how this thing continues because it's like, listen, it's a great idea. It's a great idea, but let's let everybody else do it except for my family because I'd really like my family to keep getting care. That'd be great. So everybody else do this, and we'll just keep doing. I'm going to keep doing my thing, and then everybody does that. And what you don't have is somebody like me who's just like, no. I told my parents, I'm like, listen, we could expect a home. There's going to be no... When you're like, I don't want to go to a home, I'm going to be like, okay, so you're going to the home anyway. I don't really care. I make smart decisions for you. That's the rule.
Yeah.
Like, when you get to a certain point, I get to step in and say, you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to make a decision.
Yeah. I'm going to step in here.
We've reached that point as a nation that maybe some smart people... need to just step up and say, make sure that doesn't fall. Step up and say,
trying to give you a little bit more slack.
The ongoing crisis of the earphone situation. But smart people need to step up and say, done. We need to cut this off. We need to start something new.
Right.
It's going to take a little pain, but it needs to be done. And when they start jacking up the price of something that keeps kids alive, maybe this is the time that we do it. That we just say, you know what? Okay, enough.
Yeah.
And they're hauling, what's her name, in front of Congress. So that's good.
Yeah.
So she's going to go have to explain herself.
I wonder if she's going to Skrelly it and just, like, plead the fifth, but do it every single time, like, under advice of counsel, I'd like to, what is it, take my Fifth Amendment? Take my Fifth Amendment? God,
such a prick. As soon as you start, I can remember watching that video.
I pay him $20,000 an hour. That's ridiculous. Can you believe that?
Just to sit here.
All he said is, tell me, plead the fifth. $20,000. Oh, man. So many people are going to have to pay so much more for medicine now.
So that's upsetting. Now my blood is boiling about... and the corruption of like making schools do it at the same time. Like you know that schools are about to have to do this. You also know that most people get them right before school, so that means the prescription lasts for a year. It's only good for a year. So if you usually get it right before school starts, and you got it right before school last year and you didn't use it, then you have to get a new one, otherwise it's expired. And when all of this is happening,
expired.
Yes, expired. But when it's your kid, you're going to go get another one because they tell you it's bad, and it's like, well, I don't want to hit them with it and have them not come back around.
Right.
So when all this is happening, that's when you jack up the price.
Yeah.
It's not even like you wait till mid-school year. Like, okay, so guys, just so you know, next August when you get the next one, it's going to be a bit more expensive. So just get ready for that.
A bit more expensive.
600% more expensive.
Yeah, it's whatever.
But yeah.
If you are worried about needing to get an EpiPen for something, I would avoid swimming in any of Maryland's
yes.
watershed.
Yes.
Especially after a storm. And especially after this news story that we heard about it.
Yeah, so the overarching theme of this episode is going to be this.
Everything is terrible.
Well, that's true. It seems like every episode is everything is terrible.
Yeah.
But this particular one is, what century do we live in?
EpiPens, pollution, police, Yankees. Everything is terrible.
But, so we live in the 21st century.
Yeah.
And yet, when they did, I'm laughing. It's not funny. It's tragic. But so the Chesapeake Bay Foundation did a bunch of testing on different waterways in Maryland, and basically found that, and I mean, correct my math if I'm here, but that the fecal matter that's in the rivers and streams is something like 2 times the allowable amount that the government
something like
says.
that, I believe. Yeah, that sounds right.
I thought it was. Is it not higher than that? It's not higher than 2 times?
Or are you talking about the total pollution?
Yeah, the total pollution.
Oh, no, way more.
What was it?
450 times the
safe amount.
Yeah, the safe amount.
The amount that the government says, listen, we really shouldn't have this, but you're not going to die.
Yeah.
And then 450 times that is the pollution amount in the rivers.
It's like the amount of heroin that Kurt Cobain had in his system over what would have been a lethal dose.
Yes. But somehow
when he still managed to
load
finagle a shotgun, put it in his mouth, and lock the door before he left.
Yeah. So wait, are you saying that Courtney Love is taking a shit in Maryland's waterways? Is that what you're saying?
I can't prove it. But I can't prove that she didn't do it, which is the important.
Fair enough. So
I can't think of anybody else who could have done it. So by the transitive properties, then
probably should be her.
Yeah, probably should be her.
Did you ever swim in any waterways growing up?
Not really.
Really?
I swam in.
You lived in the city. That's right.
Well, there's a lake that I used to swim in, Oregon Ridge.
I have no idea where that is. Is that a reservoir?
It's up in Hunt Valley.
It's people's drinking water. You're swimming in drinking water?
No, it's a lake.
Oh, okay. So good. So you did swim.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about let's check the bacteria levels or anything?
No, most of my concern was about hitting a fish when I swam. Because that was if I kicked a fish when I swam, I'd immediately I'm Michael Phelpsing it back to shore going no!
Look clear, there's a shark down there waiting to get you. Is it a fear or was it what?
It was just what the fuck just touched my foot?
Dark water.
Yeah.
So growing up, I swam in rivers.
I remember once they had a little deck out in the middle of the lake. Yeah, the floating deck. And I jumped off of it and into the water and I face palmed a fish. A fish just hit me in the face. And I was done swimming in the lake for the day. Because I was if it can happen to my face, it can happen anywhere.
So you swim in a lake. I swim in rivers and in the bay and in the ocean. I swam
in the ocean, yeah.
The ocean, I guess. But the idea, I don't know when this happened. Because here's the thing. In Federalsburg, where I grew up, we swam in a river that was right next to the water treatment plant.
Yeah.
And I remember
I'm gonna have to have conversations with Rachel about where she swam. Because she was right next to the shit plant.
Right. But
did you ever go in the back neck?
I remember my dad saying, don't go further than here. Because the outlet to the wastewater treatment plant was there. And then I did a report in 4th grade where it was the water quality of that coming out was actually better than the rest of the river. None of which concerned anybody, though. There was no thought about bacteria.
Right.
But now, 25 years later, it's a concern.
You know what the thing I think is about it? Nobody asked questions.
Oh, no.
Much like nobody started asking questions about the state of our roads or pipes until they all started collapsing and bursting.
Yes, yeah.
And then everyone started going hey, this seems to be happening a lot. And it's just yeah, the whole city is about to do this. Every single square mile of the city is old pipes. Yeah. It's 200-year-old pipes ready to burst. Have a happy day.
Remember when during the 90s when we were just blowing money left and right and giving away tips? You probably should have been using that on the streets. Yeah.
I do worry. You know what? I feel like there's going to be a day coming where I go to the doctor and it costs $4,000. And then he says, bad news, Cory, you have cancer. I say, oh, God. Lung cancer from smoking?
No.
Like, no, actually, your lungs are fine. It's really weird. Your lungs are great. You actually have some sort of really weird intestinal cancer that only seems to be caused by people who swim in shit. Like, swim in a river of shit.
Yeah.
And then, like, just, like, the moment just sort of, like, hits me, like, flashback style, just, like, whoosh.
Fish.
I'm, like,
Smack.
I'm back at Oregon Ridge, jumping in a lake, going, like, I love the water.
Never put it in your mouth. Never put it in your mouth. Why
well, I
would you
never
do
thought
that?
about it until just that second, when all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, you got about 3 weeks because you have shit creek cancer.
I feel like, though, that it's not just that.
It's the type of cancer we've only seen from kids in Flint.
A whole separate issue about.
By the way, it's still not fixed.
Fixed.
Just by the way, it's still not fixed.
And
they don't have water coming their way anymore because everyone's forgot about it.
Yeah, we forgot, so nobody's sending water.
Yeah.
And the repair is now going to cost 10 times what the repair that poisoned them was supposed to save.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And the governor is not arrested or...
Yeah, and basically everybody just said,
listen, he did what he was supposed to do.
Listen.
Or not.
A storm nearly drowned 10,000 people in Louisiana. Didn't make the news. Just...
Oh, it made the... I saw it in the news.
Later.
Well, no, I saw it in the news when people were going like, why isn't Obama here? Why isn't Hillary here?
That was 6 days after the rain.
Yeah, I know.
I'm on Twitter, and I'm just like, what? Things are going crazy. Which, by the way, don't watch news anymore. Just get on Twitter.
Find a good selection of people.
Follow me, because I retweet all of the important people. That's all I'm saying.
At Founding the Future.
Oh, that's right. It's at Founding the Future now. At Founding Future. But yeah,
God forbid at Robert N. Cheek says anything controversial.
Can't have anything controversial on there. It's not like this podcast. But yeah, no, so it seemed to me.
Thank God they follow the first rule.
Yes, don't listen. But I don't know that it was that we weren't paying attention. I think that it really wasn't an issue. It really was not that big a deal.
Yeah.
That there were bacteria levels, but it wasn't crazy. I remember when I started high school was the first year that they started getting these weird results in the bay, and they were saying, okay, so bad things. There used to be a dead spot in the middle of the bay. Now it's actually reaching the coast, so you can't actually go in the water.
Yeah.
So it's not just don't swim in the middle; it's don't swim anywhere in the bay. And the scientists were trying to justify it by saying this is a good thing. It means we're moving in the right direction. And I don't know how that logic worked itself out, but I was 14, so I trusted it. Speaking of which, incoming high schoolers, 9/11 was a historical event for them.
Yeah,
didn't happen during their lives.
Yeah.
If you wanted to feel old, you're welcome. But 10,000 gallons of human fecal matter went into the water around Baltimore during a storm. 10,000 gallons. Just for everybody to give you some kind of clarity, that is a swimming pool.
Yeah.
A swimming pool worth of shit went into the water.
Or, I mean, I guess if you're thinking about the average passenger car,
yeah,
it's 1,000 of those.
Yes.
The amount of gas that it takes to fill 1,000 regular old cars.
Of shit.
Yeah.
Of shit water. It's not shit water.
Yeah, it's not like
gray
branches
water.
and...
No.
It ain't sticks and stems.
It's human shit. I can't... This is stuff that you're dealing with in the 1600s. People are throwing buckets. You watch any remake of a Shakespeare play, and they're throwing buckets of waste in the street, and then somebody's coming along and washing it. That's what happens in the 1600s.
Yeah.
No, 2016.
Yeah.
We still just have to don't drink the water, don't swim in the water. I thought you were going with the cancer thing. I thought you were screw it, I'm going to go swim in the harbor then. Because if I'm going to die anyway, I want to know what it's like.
Not even. I'm almost sure those kids from Chicago are dead.
Right. I haven't heard any news reports. I think they might not have made it back. They might have died before they made it back.
Just flying caskets back like it's fucking war.
I don't know. And so, again, dealing with problems that are not of the century, we could have E. coli breakouts. We could have diphtheria, versions of diarrhea that kill people.
Yeah.
These are what happens when you get shit in the water.
Yeah.
And this is the thing we're going to deal with.
And the plague.
The plague.
Yeah.
We are this close to having an outbreak of the plague.
The reason why the plague started was because of shit in the drinking water.
It's 2016. We are in a country that spends $700 billion
With a B.
On building war machines. We spent $400 billion over the course of 6 years on a plane that does not do the job that it was designed to do.
Yeah, I would have taken that money and given you a plane that doesn't fly.
There's that new movie War Dogs, which,
Yeah.
by the way, everybody should go see because I have a feeling that Jonah Hill and your boy
Miles Teller.
They need a hit. Yeah, let's give them a hit because otherwise it could be bad news bears for them. So go see that. But basically, that's what they said is like we don't have to ship everything successfully. We just have to get some of it there.
Yeah.
That's the rule because they lose money all the time, but we can keep that money.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Pentagon, I could design you a plane that don't fly, that don't shoot, that can't work in all weather. Just give me $1 billion and I can do that. But we have 1600s diseases about to break out.
What kind of background do you have in aeronautics testing? Well, I am Dick Cheney's grandson. All right, come this way.
I thought you were going to look at me because I was like, I fly model planes when I was a kid.
I own a drone.
I did own a drone for a while. I got some hair in it, so it doesn't really fly anymore. But it was a quadcopter, so without the 4 engines, it doesn't run. I know what's wrong with it. I diagnosed that. And also in Baltimore, day 5 of school this year canceled in the city of Baltimore.
Baltimore County.
Baltimore County.
Yeah.
Why? Why is it that school would be canceled?
Because it's too hot.
Because in 2016, more than 100 years after the invention of the air conditioning unit, not just air conditioning in general, but the commercial air conditioning unit by Mr. Carrier, who everybody should say thank you to, because God bless him. But
especially during this summer.
100 years later, we are canceling school because it's too hot in the schools.
Yeah. Is that you sipping your tea?
I mean, just what do you
pulling
say?
Your Kermit?
It's 2016.
Yeah.
And kids can't go to school because it's too hot. They can't drink water because there's shit in it, or lead.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are.
Or their house is painted in lead.
Or millions of other problems, and we're spending money on warplanes. And, oh, by the way, as a juxtaposition to that, the one thing we do have money to blow on is crazy technology to fight crime that may or may not exist.
Yeah, so let's take a trip on down to the Baltimore corner.
Where you get the straight dope?
Indeed. And talk about Big Brother is after you. Badly after you.
So, you know those crazy people who are like, hey, they're watching us all the time. They're surveilling us. And then I jokingly say stuff like when came to find out that the FBI had a plane up for one afternoon observing the Freddie Gray protest.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, so it turns out they were watching you. Oh, wait, there's more. Not only was the FBI out on one classified plane trip to observe a protest, but during that time, and for 300 flight hours otherwise, we were being watched.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where to begin?
Well, I guess I'm going to begin here. Because the Baltimore Police Department, in their admission of this, pulled a total Trump.
Okay, yes.
And what I mean by that is they held a press conference and they said so many stupid things in a row that people couldn't concentrate on one stupid thing to pick on. When Rawlings Blake did the Space to Destroy thing,
right? That
was her one. I mean, she did the check me on my Twitter feed, but nobody remembers that.
Nobody remembers. It happened. We saw it.
She did the one stupid thing, and then it became national. Hey, look at the stupid mayor of Baltimore. But the Baltimore Police Department, apparently learning from Trump, decided if we just say a bunch of stupid things, then nobody's going to pay attention to any one of them.
Right.
So we can just skate on this.
And you get Jane Miller who asks a question, and she's like, I don't know where to begin.
What do I do?
There's so much. There's so much.
So, like, one of said examples is somebody said, what is your rationale for having a secret spy plane fly over Baltimore? It's like, wait a minute. Not a secret.
No.
Not a secret. I mean, we didn't tell anybody, and nobody specifically asked, so therefore...
Yeah, had you asked,
we
would have totally said something about it.
We would have definitely gotten to it.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So, here's the lesson. If you have any crazy conspiracies, just call and ask.
Yeah.
Because apparently it's open door policy.
We'll find the number for the Baltimore City Police Department. I'm pretty sure it's 911.
No, do not call. Do not call 911. Do not call 911. Call 1PP. They have a press line, I'm sure. Call that number. Don't call now. I can't stress enough. Do not call 911.
I'm not responsible for what happens after that.
I don't know if you remember Corinne Gaines that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Not a good idea to call 911. Bad things tend to happen. But go ahead.
They said, no, of course it's not a secret. We just didn't tell anybody, including the city council or the mayor, until, quote-unquote, recently.
Yeah. Recently being after a story was published where the owner of this company bragged about what he was doing.
I'd like to imagine that Commissioner Davis just, like, walks in on Stephanie's office and is just like, you got a sec?
She's holding a copy of Bloomberg.
It's like, yeah, what's up? So, you may hear something about this. I don't know. I just want to give you a heads up. So, we did it through charity. So
we didn't do anything.
Well, we didn't do. I mean, we just accepted it.
Yeah.
We just laid back and take it. Like so many people in the city.
Somebody made an offer. We accepted. We've been getting information. That's all you really need to know at this point. Yeah.
The Rawlings Blake statement is beyond the pale too, where it's just like, you know, we're on the cutting edge of trying to figure out exactly, or to bring the crime rate down. I'm just like, oh, on the cutting edge after the Department of Justice basically says that you just target black people.
Yeah.
And haven't really been on the cutting edge of anything.
Essentially what she said is we go learn from other police departments.
Mm-hmm.
And what we would like to do is, on occasion, do something that makes other police departments come learn from us. And I wanted somebody at that press conference to be like,
I don't think it was a press conference. I think it was just a statement.
Was it just a statement?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Because it's like, DOJ report?
Because,
people come learn?
Because, Stephanie Rawlings Blake is a coward.
Don't want to answer.
Big old fucking coward.
There'll be no questions. No questions. She's going to give a statement, and then we're going to be done. We've got some Keeping Up with the Kardashians to go check out on the DVR. So...
Listen, Dancing with the Stars isn't back yet, but Ryan Lochte's going to be on it this season, and I got to see that train wreck. I'm like flabbergasted. The one of the first things I said to you when you brought up this, because you knew we were going to talk about it, was I honestly thought on Tuesday when I read the article, Tuesday morning, I was going to have to call you and say,
let's do this.
Get up to the studio. We're recording a bonus podcast. We're releasing it tomorrow. We're going to vent about this.
But we had to wait for the responses because it only gets worse.
Oh my god!
I think it was Rector who tweeted that in the competition for the biggest scandal in Baltimore this year, halfway through, there's no telling. We have no idea, and we don't know what's left to come.
Yeah,
who knows what's going to happen in the next 5 months? So let's do this, though. Because you had a couple of questions. So why don't we do a little Q&A?
Okay.
And I'm going to give you kind of a generalized legal opinion to try and answer some questions that people might have about this program. So,
okay.
Go ahead.
So I'll just be regular old citizen.
Yes.
And I have questions for the lawyer.
Sure. And of course, this is for entertainment and informational purposes only. Do not use any of this to conduct your own affairs. Seek out an attorney that you would meet in person and not one that you take advice from over a podcast or the internet. Go ahead.
Now that that's out of the way.
That's out of the way.
Now that that's out of the way. Listen to everything Rob says. How is this legal?
So, it is legal because 2 or 3 separate things that kind of intertwine. You have no expectation of privacy in a place that you can be observed by the public generally.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that if a police officer sees you carrying a severed head down the middle of Charles Street in a place where the public could see you, there is no need for them to get a warrant or anything else. They can investigate because you're in public where there's no expectation of privacy. And the same thing is, if you are having a conversation about how you want to murder Jeffrey Maier on the internet, that there's no expectation of privacy because we're putting it out there for people to consume.
Yeah.
So certainly any investigation that comes from that would be totally okay.
Even though I didn't do that.
So you have no, and in fact, the owner of the company relies on this Supreme Court case that said that when the police were using a helicopter in the course of another investigation, it happened to observe some marijuana plants growing on some property, that it wasn't a warrantless search, that because it was there and anyone, and this is the key, that in the dicta of that case, or the dicta is side comments that or storytelling that fills in the points between the legal precedent. What they said is that if someone passing in a commercial airliner were to look down, they would have seen this browning field of grain, and in the center, a bright green spot of marijuana. So even from a commercial aircraft, it would have been visible that something was amiss there.
Yeah.
And I think what the owner has taken from that is, well, this is the same thing. We're a commercial aircraft, and we're flying. So, and that's the important point for point 2, which is the police are not doing this. This is a private company that is observing all of us, doing so with a grant from somebody who made his money in Enron, got out before the collapse, through a 501c3, which means that may or may not be a tax-deductible donation to spy on us. But nonetheless, it's a private company who's giving information to the police. Theoretically, there has to be some kind of quid pro quo. So the police are either purchasing that, or there's got to be some kind of exchange, or this company is doing a public service. And if they are doing a public service, then it becomes a public record so that you could access it. If they are selling it, then they are producing a commercial product that you or I would be able to go buy as well. So if you wanted to find out what you were doing in the city on any given day, you could theoretically ask them for the data for that day and get the data and purchase it from them. So it's legal because it's not illegal. And unfortunately, in America in 2016, that is kind of the standard. The standard is if it's not illegal, then it's okay for us to do. And that's not necessarily the intent of the law. The law is for that civilians to live by the concept that if it's not illegal, you can do it. Mm. The police are supposed to live by a concept that says if we are not specifically allowed to do it, we should not do it. Those things have become reversed in the past decade. So it's not specifically illegal, and there is precedent that says that it can be done. It's just it's as if you asked to borrow $20 from me, mm-hmm. and I say, hey, yeah, I got $20 sitting on my desk, just go grab it. And then later on you say, hey, you mind if I just borrow money again? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And you go in and you take the entire stack of $10,000 off the desk.
Yeah, I tell you not to leave $10,000 just on your desk, but you don't listen.
But a small precedent that establishes a narrow rule should not be naturally expanded just because it happens to kind of involve the same factors. In my example, there is money sitting out. You are asking to borrow some money, and I am conceding that you can, in fact, borrow that money. I don't think anybody had in mind that I would not have in mind in my example that the $20 you borrowed the first time establishes that you can then take $10,000.
Yeah.
So they are moving beyond it, but of course it'll take 15 years for it to get to the Supreme Court to decide whether or not it is actually legal or not to have this kind of program.
Yeah.
That was a really long explanation, but
well, I mean, in 15 years, Stephanie Rawlings Blake would have choked on her own ego. So,
and she won't
be here for that.
She may be here. She may be back in the mayor's office again. What we've learned from Baltimore is it's never too late to turn it all around.
Never over till it's over.
Nope, because even if you get arrested and you become a felon, you could run for mayor.
Yeah.
So why not?
Oh, the joy! I was honestly that was the other part. I was honestly thinking. Has Baltimore gotten more corrupt than Chicago?
I think so.
Because I feel like Chicago used to be the gold standard of corruption.
Yeah.
But Baltimore is quickly leapfrogging it.
Well, and I can't say that it's corruption, because this is not an example of corruption. Another thing that you brought up earlier is that, like, how has Stephanie Rawlings Blake not been impeached yet? She has done nothing that's impeachable. She's done nothing illegal. How has she not been run out of town on a rail? That is an interesting question, but mainly because nobody wants to go to jail for doing something that's stepping wrong as Blake. But in the end, there is no corruption specifically here. There was an issue with the red light cameras and the speed cameras that may or may not have been corruption.
Yeah.
There is a problem.
May
or may not. Yeah. But this is an issue of abuse of power.
Yeah.
Like, corruption goes to somebody lining their own pockets with public funds. Baltimore may not have passed Chicago for corruption, but Baltimore has become the Chicago of abuse of power.
Yeah.
Of just doing whatever you want to do, and damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. DOJ. I mean, in successive weeks, we've had the DOJ report, and then this surveillance thing come out, where they basically say, "We do what we want, and we scare you into saying, well, it's to protect you. All of this is to protect you." And I read an interesting story that was from the Office of the Public Defender, somebody who works for the Office of the Public Defender, saying how many people have missed out on evidence that could have exonerated them because we didn't know that this program exists. So we have this unequal exchange where the police use it and never claim to use it. What they do is they use that to lead them to other information, and then take that information, follow all constitutional restraints to get that.
Yeah.
Like, so we know that they passed by this camera. Okay, let's get a warrant for that camera. Oh, hey, look, the guy we're looking for. Here he is. And that leads down the tree.
Right.
Without talking about
Did you see the
source.
police report of the guy that they bring up in the example?
Yes. Where they kind of skip over details and get to the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, a police report doesn't always include all the steps of the investigation. That's for a trial.
Yeah.
My understanding is that guy has not yet stood trial, so we don't know what they're going to say. And I don't.
That'll be an interesting trial to follow.
Well, and it will now. But how many people have been convicted?
Yeah.
Dirt bikers all over this city have most likely been convicted. They've had their property taken, and those investigations hinge on this aerial surveillance that may or may not be illegal. Which I would argue is probably legal the way that they've set it up, but. That the fruit of the poisonous tree
shiesty
right
legality.
And again, if you are going to have a tool, then it
just
should
like
be
it's
open to both sides.
not illegal for me to be driving on the highway and then lock up my brakes.
No,
because I thought I saw a deer in front of me, and then collect insurance money when the person behind me slams into me.
Yeah.
It's not illegal. I mean, it is
shiesty.
if I say I'm going to do it on a podcast and it happens.
I still hope you don't get in an accident this week. But yeah, it's not the way. It's breaking the social contract. It may not be breaking the law, but it's breaking the social contract. That's we have a contract with each other that says that you're not going to do stuff like that because that drives up my insurance rates, and then somebody will do it to you and that drives up your rates. We also have a contract with the police that says they're not going to do shiesty shit.
Yeah,
and then we can trust you. And Baltimore police have basically said, "Fuck you. We don't care if you trust us."
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the
do.
police cars used to say like honor, loyalty, respect on them.
Don't think they say that anymore.
None of them.
Nah,
none of it.
To serve, it used to say protect and serve, and now it says to something and enslave. What's the thing from Transformers?
Anyway. What do the Decepticons say? That's basically the Baltimore Police Department.
It's basically it. Yeah, but no, I mean, it's
Davis is Megatron.
First of all, I don't want to give him that kind of. I don't think he's got the leadership qualities. Of that. Bats was definitely a Megatron because he had that demeanor of I cut my teeth on the street. Davis is just like, listen, my dad was a cop, so
the guy who does the press briefings, like T.J. Miller or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
he's Starscream, total Starscream. So here's a follow-up question.
Yeah.
What can be done about it?
Absolutely nothing.
Shit, I was hoping you wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I mean, so in the end, if you...
I mean, could we all just leave?
Could all just leave. I mean, you could always leave the city.
Everyone just want to go all at once?
I think that would send a message, but I don't know that it's practical, because essentially what we would have is a renewal of white flight. Because you and I mean, we've talked about an eventual move in the future. We're capable of a move. There are people who just aren't. that they will be there generations from now. Their family will still be there because the economic and socioeconomic circumstances keep them where they are. They will not be able to leave. They have been, using the term the way that it was originally meant to be, they have been ghettoized. They have been put in a place, and they have been focused there, and they will continue to be there, and they police the use of force to keep them in that area will go in perpetuity unless something is done to fix it. Now, there will probably be some cases overturned, because I'm guaranteeing you that the court system will not be happy about the surveillance thing not being cleared, not being public, and not being accessible to the defense. Because you have to, Brady versus Maryland was a Supreme Court case that said you have to give, if you have something, you have to give it to the defense. So any case where they used any aerial surveillance and didn't let the defense know, which is any case that they had aerial surveillance, nobody knew, those will probably get overturned. So who knows how many thousands of cases that involves. And the public defender's office, I would argue, if you can find out that your defendant had their circumstances happen on a certain day, and they didn't make you aware that there was possibly something that could have shown that they weren't the perpetrator, I think you could overturn your conviction on that as well, and just say, well, we don't know. If you give us this aerial surveillance, we can track our guy and say, look, nope, nowhere near the scene of this crime.
Dollar General.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like that the medical examiner who turned out like contaminated all of those and forged all of those tests. Like 6,000 convictions come into question. I think we're talking about that kind of number. Like, I don't know how many cases came out of these 300 flight hours, but I imagine it's a lot. And all of those people, and include not just the ones who came out of the cases, but the ones who could possibly be exonerated by evidence that's contained in there. I think you could get all of that overturned. Now, will you? Probably not.
Now, here's the secondary.
Yeah.
So they keep making an argument that this is just an extension of City Watch, the cameras that are all over with the blue blinking lights.
Yeah.
How can they make that argument? Because isn't it
logically?
Don't they have to tell you when they're putting up a new camera?
They do. I don't know if that's by law. I don't think it's Maryland state law. I think it's Baltimore City policy, is that when they're putting up a City Watch camera, they post that it's going up. When they do a red light or a speed camera, yes, they have to have notice that this camera is now in effect, and there's like a grace period usually. But what they're saying is that it's an extension. It's different. It's different in the way that we don't have to comply with the notice requirement, but it's the same in the way that it does the same job, so we really didn't need to inform you. Which is some of that Trump double talk.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, listen, in the way that it matters, it's exactly like City Watch. But in the way that we had to let you know about it, it's nothing like City Watch.
Yeah.
And you know, it's... The City Watch cameras, it is a souped-up version. I will agree that in ways it is a souped-up version of City Watch. Because... You know, the idea that you could track, you know, the Freddie Gray van, all of the evidence that was entered at those trials was a combination of City Watch cameras and any of the ATM cameras or, you know, store cameras that they could get that would, but for the most part, it was City Watch cameras. And so, you know, being able to, what I guess their argument is, you can track people across the city using those cameras. It's totally different, though, to be able to say that 35 square miles of Baltimore includes the beautiful the Anthem Studios, deep below the earth in Parkville, Maryland. So you could leave here. They could track you leaving here, getting in your car, driving, make all the stops that you make during the day, and then coming back home. So City Watch could never be able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, London is the most photographed city in the world. You are on camera literally everywhere downtown in London. And they say that even there's blind spots. There's places where you would lose somebody, you wouldn't be able to follow them. This aerial surveillance eliminates that. Literally, you can follow them from place to place all day long. Now, if they're on foot, it gets a little funny because, you can't track individual people. But, like, if you get in your car and they track your car to a place and then a pixel gets out, that's you. It goes in a store.
I might be 2 pixels.
And then another
I don't know if you heard, but I'm a little bit overweight.
And then another pixel gets out and gets back in that car and drives away. I mean, safely assume that it's you. And then they use the City Watch cameras to confirm along this trip. But it fills in the gaps of the trip. The idea that you could be watched in that way is insane.
Yeah.
Like, literally, you're tracked from... I mean, they don't need to put a tracker on your car. And you have no way of knowing that it's happening. There's no notice that it's happening. It's insanity. So...
Now, if there is a... What is the requirement for getting a warrant to, like, follow somebody like that?
To follow you?
To, like, tail you.
No need. You don't need a warrant to follow.
You don't need a warrant for following?
Nope. You can be followed at any time by anyone.
Oh, regardless of police or...
I could follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So long as I'm not harassing you, I mean, I could follow you. In states that have a PI license, then you actually get excerpted from the harassment requirement, because if I was following you and taking pictures of you everywhere you went, then it's a course of conduct which lends itself to harassment. Especially if you notice me taking pictures of you, but that makes me a bad PI. But in states that offer PI licenses, essentially what they say is there are certain things about this law that we're going to exempt you from because we've done a background check on you and we find you to be safe. So if someone complains that you're following them, well, anybody can follow anybody, so that's not a problem. Well, he was taking pictures of me, but he's got the PI license, so he's allowed to photograph as so long as it's in public and he's not, breaking and entering or doing anything else that's illegal. Maryland doesn't even have PI licenses, so you could live as long as you are not actively harassing or threatening someone. You can do whatever you want. I could follow you around all day, taking pictures of you, and following you everywhere you go. But that's an insane resource use.
Yeah.
Like, you have 2 cops in a car following you around all day long. That's 2 people times whatever their salary is times, however many days that they follow you. With this, they are conducting 17 investigations all at the same time because the same pictures are used for different investigations. So it's a much better resource allocation. And I will say, you and I talked about this before. I get the argument that people make about why it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. Minority Report is a great example of this. Like, the idea that you could stop crime before it happened. The idea that we could track people everywhere they go. For criminals, absolutely it's a good idea. And if we had a perfect society otherwise, all other things being equal, I am on board with you. But when you have a society that it's in the city of Baltimore, apt for corruption, apt for abuse, apt for many other... 163 pages of a DOJ report. This is not a tool you want to give them in the toolbox.
No.
And the argument of the police that, we can't announce this kind of stuff because we don't want the trigger pullers, which is what they use the term trigger pullers because they want you to get nervous and say, oh, well, they're just using it to catch homicide. Nope. A whole bunch of different crimes.
Yeah.
Very few homicides. Lots of other different crimes. Crimes.
I mean, if I went down to the Mayfair,
Yeah.
and I wrote "Suck my dick, SRB, demolition by neglect,"
Yeah.
and spray painted it on the front,
Yep.
they could hypothetically just go to the tapes, see who was there, follow me to my car, watch me drive home.
Yeah, so essentially the process would be this. Officer rolled past at 10 a.m. No graffiti. Officer rolled past at 12 p.m. Graffiti. So we have a 2-hour window. So now we go to the video and we find what in those 2 hours, when did this occur? Okay, boop, there's subject pixel A. This must be the, in the 2-hour period, it's the only person who stopped and walked up to that wall. So this is the person who did that. Well, then they backtrack from that point and they follow you as long as they can, most likely back to your home. And then they go back to that point again and they follow you forward, most likely back to your home. And especially when your day begins and ends at the same place, they can assume that that's your home, so much so that they'd be able to get a warrant for that residence because it's safe to assume that that's your home. But keep in mind that you do that and then you stop by my house, you've now implicated me in a conspiracy to do whatever, and you go to another person's house, and now they're building the idea that this aerial surveillance creates it shows the network of
Right.
crime. And that's what it was intended for. This was called Angel Fire, and it was developed in Iraq. And they were using it because they said, hey, if you were going to plant a roadside bomb, nobody just plants a roadside bomb. There are networks of terrorists who are doing this.
Right.
So when we see the guy plant the bomb, now we can backtrack and find out where he lives, but we can also see all the other stops along the way. And here's the weapons cache. This is where he picked up the bomb. And here's where he got payment. And here's where he dropped it off to another house. Here's the safe house that he waited at. Like, it's insane. And for that purpose, I suppose it's okay. And again, theoretically, I get why people like it.
Yeah.
All other things being equal, I would love a society where we were worried about something and we could give up all that liberty. But
let's say using that example, like you're perfectly innocent of everything.
Yeah.
You're just a choir boy. You've never committed a crime. I mean, like there's that law that everyone's committed a crime every single day, multiple times a day. But
let's assume I'm the one who has never.
You're the one person who's perfectly saint-like.
Yeah.
And I stop by after I've painted up the Mayfair.
Yeah.
And I hang out at your house for a while, and then I leave and go back to my house, and then the police come harass you.
Yeah.
What grounds do you have to?
None. I mean, they come and talk to me, then there's nothing I can do. But
if they arrest you for conspiracy or charge you with a conspiracy.
Graffiti is not a crime for which there can be a conspiracy.
Well, I mean...
But let's just say it was something else. Let's say they...
Like I burned it to the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they find accelerants at my house, which are similar to the ones that are allegedly used there. I've now been enrolled in a conspiracy. Now, they still have to prove, theoretically, beyond a reasonable doubt, that I was part of a conspiracy. But... Again, all other things being equal, great idea. This society, not so much. Because I go in with the assumption of guilt. They're going to show this thing. They're going to explain the technology to the jury and say, here's these people are known to be friends. They're both known to have a sentiment about this building. Mm-hmm. We know the building was burned. We know that they were together on that afternoon, and the accelerants that were used were found at the person's home. Now, he didn't light the fire, but he was involved. Guilty, right there. I have just made a case that says, in America in 2016, that you're guilty and you're going to go to jail. Now, it shouldn't, because nothing in there implicated me in a crime whatsoever. But it's enough to get you a guilty fine.
And not only that, but I mean, even if you were to convince that you weren't involved in it whatsoever, you're still spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on legal counsel.
Yeah.
You're not getting that money back if you're found innocent. It's not like the city pays your legal fees if you get off. And
keep in mind that the reality of the system is they don't want me to actually go to jail. They want me to turn on you.
Right.
Because they want to make your case as ironclad as possible because you're the one who actually burned the place down. So they threaten me with conspiracy and all kinds of bullshit charges just so that I roll over and tell them everything I know about you. And then they continue the threat to make sure I testify against you. And then everything gets dropped.
It's a fucking maddening system.
Sotomayor said we live in a carceral state. We live in a state of a prison. And that is exactly what we are. Nothing better shows that the city of Baltimore is essentially a prison than what happened in the DOJ report, the fact that we're under constant surveillance from planes and the city watch cameras, the way that the justice system is set up in the city of Baltimore that gives nationwide, but here as well, gives no justice. You go in being guilty. If you have a complaint lodged against you in a jail, you lose the assumption of innocence. It's so-and-so said that you did this. So tell us how you didn't do it. Because we're going to assume that that is enough, that you're guilty, that you're going to get a mark on your record or whatever. Unless you can prove to us that it didn't happen. Like, I was in the yard at that time. Oh, let's check the file.
Yeah.
Oh, you were in the yard at that time. Okay. You could have easily checked the file to see I was in the yard, but you didn't do that. It's all burden is on me to prove innocence.
Right. And if you're at your house,
out in the rest of the world, if you, I'm working on. I've kind of been kicking around an idea about that. If police showed up here today and said, 3 months ago, where were you on Tuesday night? Well, I can find out.
Yeah.
But we have a system that's built with the assumption of guilt in it. And if they have done an investigation and they produce evidence to a jury, the jury's going to assume you're guilty because the case seems to show that. Now you have the burden of showing that you didn't do something, when most of my evenings are, I was watching TV for like 3 hours and then I fell asleep. I was writing and watching TV.
Yeah.
Well, did you save anything? Yeah, but I resaved the file since then, so it's not going to have that date on it. 3 months ago.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so you're screwed. And that is what it's like living in jail. We live in a huge jail called the City of Baltimore.
Yeah.
That luckily some of us get to leave.
Yeah. Well, think about all the people who get the people in the DOJ report who were stopped 30 times in a year. Like, you know, if I'm one of those people, I mean, I'm not because I'm white.
Right.
But if I'm one of those people and then all of a sudden they come to me because they saw something on the spy plane.
Yeah.
Like, it's preposterousness.
But the announcement about this aerial surveillance happened 1 week after the press conference where the DOJ report came out, and then the police came and said, "Listen, we're going to make big changes, and we need you, the public, to put your trust back in us."
Yeah.
And then a week later, they're like, "Oh yeah,
a week later, Bloomberg reports.
We've also been spying on you." Yeah, sorry about that.
That was before the DOJ report, though, so I wouldn't.
No, it's continued. It'll be continuing until November. So, if you see a Cessna in the sky above the City of Baltimore, and it seems to be circling at about 8,000 feet, there's a good chance that you should wait because your picture's getting taken.
You're probably on camera anyway.
Yeah. Well, you're probably on camera anyway, but there is a confirmation that they're...
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, like, even if you don't see the Cessna, you're probably on camera anyway, so
true.
just prepare yourself.
Assume that you're always being watched.
Yeah.
Georgia, or... It's been said a million times, so I'm just going to repeat it again. 1984 was not supposed to be an instruction manual. It was a warning.
Yeah.
And here we are, essentially falling into the... if Orwell was alive today, I think that he would look around him and just be like... Well, I got so many details right.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
Maybe I'm a psychic.
He would be Tony Robbins. He would have a whole group of people following him saying, you know, how did you come up with this? Yeah, 60 years in advance.
Right.
Technology was nowhere near where it is today, but you basically predicted everything. You must be a psychic.
Yeah.
He's like, for $5,000, I can share my gift with you. Just walk on these hot coals.
Yeah.
And
don't stand on the middle of them taking selfies, please.
Don't take selfies. Leave your phones and then walk and then come get your phone.
Yeah, and just quickly walk across the coals. Don't walk halfway and be like, "Hey, this is pretty cool. I'm on coals and it doesn't hurt." Ah!
But just keep in mind that Big Brother is watching you. So just so you know.
Yeah, and Stephanie Rawlings Blake is fine with it.
Yep.
The police are going to do everything they can to keep this.
Yep. In fact, I guarantee you they're going to try and petition that the system become permanent. Because they are looking for a city that uses this as a means of crime prevention. And Baltimore, it's worked so well. So,
yeah,
you know, I suppose it's...
I mean, the crime has gotten so much better this year.
Yeah, so much better.
I mean, it's like we might as well be Des Moines.
Yes, exactly right.
With their 5 murders a year or whatever.
I can't... Just when you think things can't get any worse. I don't even... I just wish it was December. Because I don't know what else is going to happen in the next 5 months. But none of it's going to be good.
No.
So, you know. So keep your eye on the sky. And wave because your picture's being taken.
And just hope that anonymous donors keep this thing rolling. Because if they don't, it's just going to be...
Well, if they don't, we'll be paying for it.
$200 million out of the city budget.
Yep.
In addition to what the police already make. For not investigating crimes.
Listen, it's only $2 million a year, all right? So it's actually not that expensive of a program. I have an idea, though, that as soon as it's not funded by a rich donor, but funded by the city, $2 million becomes like $25 million.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, overnight.
Yeah.
Well, because there's got to be 4 people in the office who just sit there and take notes.
By the way, can I get that job? I would really like that job.
$40,000 or $50,000 a year, retire after 30 years with full benefits.
Yeah, just sit in an office looking at a screen all day. Like what? Yeah. Here we go. Address. Okay. Good.
There you got it.
The state of the world. Again, what century are we living in? 10,000 gallons of shit dumped in drinking water. Well, not drinking water. In the public waters.
Yeah.
Public waterways. But millions spent spying on us.
Mm-hmm.
Big Brother, but the Black Plague. Yeah, sure.
Well, you know where people are always watching?
Where's that?
OhTheAnthem.com, Cory at OhTheAnthem.com, OhTheAnthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595.
And you can find me on our social networks at Robert and Cheek. Make sure you check out robertandcheek.com for links to my political blog, for the news website, and my books, which are available on Amazon.
Buy Rob's books.
Thank you, sir.
Right,
Don't you damn say it. Don't you damn say it.
Well, I don't have to.
Nah,
because the eye in the sky knows we done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But
perhaps actionable, but we'll find out.
Certainly actionable.
We'll find out in 3 months when they come and say, what were you doing on Friday? I don't know.
Recording a podcast?
Recording a podcast,
I guess. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Cory, this is Rob. Hi, NSA. Have a great week, everybody.
Let's all remove our batteries from our phones at the same time. Sorry, iPhone people.